So today is our last class, and it's all about putting your plan in action. So this is where we bring it all together into one plan. And all the way through the class, I've been showing you this, right? Where we said, okay, we're starting with mapping it out, and then we're going to go into foundations and social proof and awareness and reasons to act. And we are finally at week 12, which is where we pull it all together into a complete book launch plan. One plan. So just to kind of summarize again, what happens after our 12 weeks, we do have, as I've said on a couple of calls, group coaching for all of November, which is kind of like through the month of November. All the materials will still be in the Course Hub, let's assume for a year. At some point, I may move them somewhere else for you, but for now, let's assume you'll have them there for a year, and you will have access to all of the new things that I create as well for future classes. And the one thing I thought of as I was preparing this was where I created a list, like a list of awards, a list of promo newsletters. I really recommend that you use the Google Doc link rather than downloading it, because I'm going to keep those lists up to date. So if you download it, you're only going to have today's version. But if you just save the link, you're always going to be able to come and get the version that I have kept up to date as I go through future classes. So that was one thing I thought of that I hadn't pointed out before, that you're welcome to download it, but you're going to get better served by saving the link and using the link to the most recent version when you need that. And like I said, I'll give you access to all the recorded videos and materials that I create for future classes, including if I create new lists of anything. And I'm still here. You can use the same link to schedule time with me. So, and we're going to talk today about how we're going to use some of the coaching in November as well. So coming in November, 3 things that I'm still working on for you. I'm going to create a recorded Canva graphics tutorial for you, because I think several of you would benefit from this. I know, Sheila, you were asking about graphics options. So I'm going to work on that and create something recorded that kind of is the basics of how to use Canva for your author graphics. I'm going to put together some newsletter templates for you. We talked about this in one of the coaching sessions after the newsletter class, basically examples of how different authors have put together their newsletters. Yep, Cheryl? You're on mute.
Do you think you're sharing a screen at the moment? Because you're not. It's just like you're reading.
I am sharing a screen in my head. There you go.
You.
Thank you. There we go. And the third thing here is I am working for you on a more detailed list of bookish podcasts. It's not too different to what we gave you already, but what we gave you is just a link to each podcast, and that this is going to have more information like who is the host, what do we know about the format, just save you some time and energy in researching some of these if you're targeting book type podcasts. So today's action items, this is what we're going to do by the end of today's class, or what your homework is going to be after the end of today's class. The first is you're going to create your consolidated launch plan with actions and dates, and that's what we will spend most of today talking about. The second is I have put together an assessment for you that I would like you to complete. And this one is for you, not for me, okay? So I gave you one that was for me to help me design the next class, but this is actually for you to do an assessment of where you stand as of right now. And so for those of you who filled in the onboarding form, tomorrow I will send you back your onboarding form, because there are several items in there where you're going to compare to what you said in your onboarding 12 weeks ago. We're going to talk about planning for your sanity and how you do that. And then we're going to talk today, I'm going to talk about how you can use the coaching sessions to actually review the plan that you've created. So today's topic, putting the plan together, just one page on your mindset for success, a little couple of things to note on scams, just because I feel like I'm sending you off into the world, and I want to make sure that I send you off into the world equipped as you go off to college, right? I want to make sure you're not going to be scammed. And then a few thoughts beyond the launch date. So this is our big part of today's class, the final workbook, putting your plan into action. So I have created a workbook for you where I walk you through step by step what I'm going to say in class today. So you have this in a workbook as well. So don't feel like you have to take frantic notes here. You have all of this in a step-by-step workbook. But the main thing I'm asking you to do is to go through each of the most important workbooks. I'll show you which ones those are, and pull in your focus actions and dates. So if you've been going through step-by-step as we did the weekly classes, you had a workbook on awareness, you had a workbook on social proof. In those workbooks, you actually said, these are the things I'm going to do and these are the dates I'm going to do them by. We're going to pull all of that in and get a little more detailed on the planning. And including, we're going to take into account our dependencies, AKA the things that have to happen first. And if you remember way back in week 1, we had this chart where I said, if you already know what you want to do, feel free to note it down. And it was in the format of the 4 areas that we focused on, right? Social proof, awareness, reasons to act, foundations. Well, the template that I'm giving you to pull all of this into is just a more sophisticated version of that. So let's look at it. So it is literally just a more sophisticated version of that. Now I'm going to talk about later in the class, if you want to get more sophisticated with your tracking still, some options for how you can do that. But this is your simplest version, is you're going to take each of the workbooks that we went through. So for example, in social proof, I asked you to identify 1 to 3 things that you were going to do in social proof and to write down what your key steps and dates were for those, right? So if you filled that workbook in when you did that homework in that week, you have that already. So now I'm just asking you to bring it over here and to make sure that for every big item, you have a start date and a finish by. And this is an extra column here that you identify anything that has to happen first, right? So some things, if you remember, can't happen until you have your ARCs, right? You can't actually send them out to anyone until you have your advanced review copies. Things can't happen until you've done your cover reveal. We talked in the press, for example, about you need to have a final title and cover for some of the things you're doing in the press area. So I want you, where possible, to add something that wasn't in your original plan, which is to clearly call out your can't happen till, which tech people would call a dependency, right? If you need something else to happen first, I want you to know it so you've really thought it through. So that's a change from the original versions you created. And you had, I think, 1 date. Now I want you to have 2 dates. When are you going to start? When are you going to finish on each of your big actions? And so I'll show you some alternate templates, but this is at the most simple. We're going to start with pulling in everything from social proof. We're going to pull in what you said you would do on awareness. We're going to pull in what you said you would do on reasons to act. And then we're going to go back and ask ourselves, were there any key actions that came out of the first few weeks where you were thinking about your brand, your website, your newsletter? Was there anything that came out of that that you knew you needed to go back and work on? And let's get that in this plan so that everything is in the one place. And here's where you're pulling it from. You don't actually have to go back through every piece of every week. It's really 4 key places that I want you to go and pull this information from. The social proof is your week 7 workbook called Your Action Plan for Social Proof. And this is all in the workbook for this week as well. It's all called out with links to the templates from each. The awareness is from your awareness plan. That was your week 9 workbook. Your reasons to act is from your week 11 workbook, reasons to act. And your foundations, the most important thing is to pull in your launch anchor points. I'll show you what I mean by that in your next slide. But also any actions that you noted as you went through target market, your Amazon categories, your website, your newsletter, your blog, your social media, anything that as you went, oh, I'll come back and do that later, right? Those are the things you want to make sure you capture in your plan so you have it all in one place. And this is just a reminder of what I meant by launch anchor points. We defined these way back in week 1. We said, some things for awareness won't be able to happen until you have your final cover and title. And if you don't know what to put in that column in the plan template that we just looked at, this is a good starting point. Ask yourself, do I need any of these, right? So if you're saying you're going to do press outreach, ask yourself, do I need the final cover and title? Probably. Do I need the final ARCs to be available? Maybe not. Do I need the book to actually be out in the world and released? So that's the simplest, you can just ask yourself, do you need any of these as key dependencies, things that have to happen first? And that would go in that column. That's the new column in the plan. And you should have these dates because we defined them way back in week 1. It's kind of the anchor points to your plan. So I'm going to talk a little bit about project management options because there are many ways to track this plan that you're going to create. But before I go there, let me stop and see if there are any questions on our big final homework assignment here. I say big, but it's actually a lot of pull in the stuff you already did, right? We did this week by week. So if you did the homework week by week, you actually have almost all of this already. You're just adding a little bit more detail on some of the dates and dependencies. Shall I keep going? Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so let's talk about project management plan options. So what I say in the workbook on this, and I truly believe this, is this is as unique as our writing styles and writing approaches. So you know how some people are plotters and some people are pantsers? Think about it this way, right? Some people are going to be like planners who want an Excel sheet and they want everything to have codependencies and they want to have every date tracked everywhere in their calendar. And other people are going to barf all over that and say, please don't make me do that, Lainey. And so I'm not going to tell you one right way to do this because it really does depend on what you are going to feel comfortable with. What I want you to pick, and I say this on a future slide, I want you to pick the thing that will make you feel in control and not overwhelmed. And that is the right answer for you, the thing that makes you feel in control and not overwhelmed. And so there's no, better or worse way to do this, but I'm going to present some options for you here. So the first one is a simple word template. It's that launch plan template that I just showed you. That is a perfectly good way to put together your plan and to track your plan. You'll have dates, you'll look at your dates, you'll see how you're doing against those dates. Perfectly fine. The second is if you're more of an Excel or Google Docs person, I did create a more visual version in Google Docs that you can use, and I'll just click over here to show it to you. So this is actually the exact same thing. It's just laid out differently in Google Docs. And if you're an Excel person, you can download this into Excel and it will work in Excel. It doesn't have any calculations in it. It is just laid out visually. So for example, under social proof, your start date, your end date, what cannot happen until eArcs are available, whatever it is that has to be available first. And these are just simple color blocks to show the plan and what it looks like. And they're different colors in the different sections. They're just simple color blocks. They're not calculated or anything. So this is just a different way to do it, which is a bit more visual, where you can scroll across and actually see what's happening week by week and month by month in the plan. No better or worse, just a more visual way of showing exactly the same thing we just had on the Word version. So I don't know if you are familiar with Kanban. I'm going to explain a little bit more. And someone mentioned this actually in the coaching session, and I thought it was a good catch to bring it up. So Kanban, let me go to the next page and show you visually what I mean. So Kanban is the concept. You've probably seen something like the middle page here. Sarah Cannon does a lovely job of explaining this in videos for your writing and how to break down your writing. And she has Kanban boards by quarter, which are really beautiful. It's the Heart Breathings community. But in the same way that you can apply this to writing, you can apply this to your plan here, right? Now, you can make this as sophisticated or as simple as you want it to be. At the simplest level, you just take everything that's in your plan and you put it on the left column. So see on the top left where it says idea or to do, you take everything that's still an idea, you put it on the left, you take everything that's in that plan that would be in that workbook document and you put it into do, and you gradually start moving it across. When you're ready to attack something, you move it into the doing column. And when you've finished it, you move it into the done column. And this can be as simple as put some pieces of paper on a wall and use Post-it notes, or it can be as sophisticated as the bottom right, which is there's software that you can do this online and on the software. And I'll show you a few options for that. Again, for some people, this is like, oh, this is so much better than having an Excel sheet because I can see it visually on my wall. And other people are like, oh my God, no, don't make me do this, Lainey. So I'm not making you do it. This is like, if this appeals to you, it is one way to do it. You have 3 or 4 columns. I say 3 or 4 because maybe at this point, you don't have that many more ideas. Maybe you just have to do, doing, done. And you can organize it by category if you want, right? So you can have rows of different categories. So you can have a section for reasons to act, a section for social proof, a section for awareness, or you can stick it all in one big bucket, whatever makes you feel most comfortable that you are in control and you can move things around and move forward and backwards. The software that I'm talking about is 3 options that I would recommend. They all have free options if you're just using one person using it: Trello, Asana, and Monday.com. I would say Asana is a little bit more techy than Trello, and Monday.com is new, but it's actually easier to use than the other 2, I think. So that's just, they all have templates. You can actually start with a project plan template if you want to get really sophisticated, or you can start with a simple board, which is literally just a computer version of the Post-its on the piece of paper. You just create all the Post-its and move them around. It's just a computer version of that. The other thing you can do, if this works for you, is use lists apps, right? So Apple Notes, Google Notes, which happens to be called Google Keep, Notion, Evernote, or any other app you have that you like for creating lists, just as a way to have it all in one place and be able to check things off as you go. It's another way to go. I find it a little more overwhelming to have like just a list. I kind of prefer to have it more like a Kanban where I can see, okay, this is first and this is second and that is third, so that I'm not attacking it all at once, but that's just me. Kathy brought up a great suggestion that you can actually use Google Calendar to track your actions if you want to. You can put all your actions and dates onto your calendar and have it show up on your calendar as an action on a certain date that goes from and to a certain date. And there's a video that she found, which is lovely. I put it in the workbook as well. And then if you want to get really sophisticated, there are actually pretty cool project management and project plan templates in Excel, in Notion, in Evernote, in Monday.com, where they will auto calculate stuff. So you can say, this task should take me 3 weeks, and it'll auto calculate. If you start on this date, then you'll finish on this date. And you can auto calculate your dependencies. This is a dependency for this. So it'll like automatically put things later in time if it has a dependency that hasn't happened yet. I'll be honest, for most people, that is more than you need. I did not run a project plan like that for my own book launch, and I didn't feel the lack of it when it was more than I needed. I've run things with this kind of software in the past in my job. It's great, but your choice of whether that, again, makes you feel better and more in control, or it makes you feel like overwhelmed. I think for many of you, it would just make you feel overwhelmed to kind of use the project management templates. And I actually started putting one together in Excel, and I stopped because I realized it was going to have the opposite impact of what I wanted. It was just going to be too confusing and too much for most of you.
Hey, Lainey, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm an Excel girl from, I learned it in my corporate days. So I currently have my project management plan there. I tried Trello and didn't like it because I had so many cards that I would have to scroll. And, whereas Excel, you can see more on your screen at one time. But I haven't found a tool, including the paid Trello, because I got my 7-day trial period, that if I put all of my start date and end dates and all my tasks, I would love a tool that then takes those dates and automatically puts them on a calendar, as opposed to me having to record the dates and then record on the calendar. That seems like double duty.
I had an entire conversation with my hubby about this, because that was what I was trying to do in Excel. And he basically slapped me around the head and said, that's what project management software is for, not Excel. So you can do it in Excel. It takes a lot of formulas, and there's no easy template in Excel that you can just download that works well with that does exactly what we need. The best I've seen that auto calculates all of that is actually Monday.com. It's the 10th project planning template in Monday.com. It's not, it's different. It's more like an app and less like a series of cards. So you can use Monday.com like a series of cards like Kanban, but they actually have a project management template that kind of auto calculates stuff, which is more what you're saying.
And then converts it to a calendar. So you have
that. I don't know. I didn't go that far of trying to put on a calendar.
Okay,
it was auto calculating it. Yeah.
Again, I tried that in Trello, including the paid version of Trello, which I never paid for, and I wasn't satisfied with what their calendar did. So if you keep me in mind, if you ever run across good project management, that I want 2 views of my data. I want the project management view, like your Excel spreadsheet, and I want a calendar view, and I only want to have to change it in one place.
One of them, I don't remember whether it was Trello or Monday, had a calendar view. I don't know that it automatically put it on your calendar. It had a calendar view, but it was only in the paid version. And so I kind of stepped away from it because I didn't want to recommend anything to you all that was going to require you to get a paid piece of software. I think it was Monday, but it was either Monday or Trello. There was a calendar view, but it didn't display until you upgraded to the paid version. I can go look if you want which one it was, but one or the other of those did.
I'll try Monday. Trello did not meet my needs, so you
might like Monday. It's kind of the new thing that also all the Silicon Valley startups are using these days. It's replaced Trello. Monday's kind of the new one that everybody's excited about.
Okay, thank you.
But if you're not a software person and you've never used software service, don't worry about it. Sheila has worked with this stuff. As an HR person, you're gonna like it. It's very much designed for kind of that world.
Thank you.
Yeah, good questions. But no, I did not find anything that automatically put it on your calendar, but I didn't go all the way with whichever one was making you pay for the calendar version to see if it would export it anywhere automatically and connect it. I think Monday might. I'm not sure. I would give it 60% probability that it does. But it might be the paid one. Any other questions on kind of different methods of managing the plan? my advice is don't get overwhelmed by this. Focus on putting the plan in one place. You can't manage the plan until you have the plan in one place. If you've got 5 different documents and you're hoping you're going to remember to go look in 5 different places, you're not. So like, don't stress about project management and going and testing lots of software and blah, 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 blah. Focus on getting your plan in one place. That is the most important step here. Oops. Okay, so the key takeaway, which I actually told you said already, is use whatever tracking approach will make you feel in control and not overwhelmed. So the place I recommend to start is that Word document. Just pull it all into the Word document, and then you've got your plan in one place. If you're feeling like Kanban or something else is what you want to use, great. But I still would put it in the Word document first, so you have it all in one place, because 50 Post-it notes is not the same as having one document. They fall off the wall. It will get frustrating for you. You really want to have a plan of record in some way. The simplest way is that Word document that I showed you. Okay, so we talked about questions, and I stuck something in here that I can't remember if I put it in a backup chart of a previous one. I just thought I would give you what my launch plan looked like and what I had in it. Now, this was back in 2020, and I was thinking about it back then as phases. And now I think about it more as, what do you do for social proof? What do you do for awareness? What do you do for reasons to act? Back then, I hadn't kind of got that framework in my head yet. But if you're interested in kind of the big things that I had called out when I did my own plan, this is what I had in my plan originally. And the other reason I didn't show you this early on is I really feel like that just happened to be the plan that was right for me in my book. That doesn't mean it's the plan that's right for you in your book. That's why I really wanted you to go through and work out what belonged in your own plans. But if this is helpful, and if it's helpful as a way of looking at the phases, that was how I thought of it in my world back then, kind of the phases of, okay, what am I going to do when I know I've got a pub deal? What am I going to do when I've actually got a cover reveal and pub date? What am I going to do? All that pre-launch phase, during the launch, and then once the launch was out the door, which for me was a focus on BookBub, was my reason to act that I was going for. So just in case it's helpful to you. And so I'm going to transition into talking to a whole different topic, which is mindset for success. But let me just stop and see, because I flew that up there and back, whether there's any questions first before I keep going.
Lady, is that document you just showed us, would you make that available somewhere with the phases?
My launch plan? Oh, yeah, totally. It's in the PDFs that are already in the class to download. If you go to the course hub, it's already up there. I have the recording will be there tomorrow, but the PDF's already there.
Thank you.
Why was BookBub your focus, especially since this was your first book?
Because I was not focused on profitability as my first goal. I was focused on getting a maximum number of readers for my debut.
Got it.
And I did not get a US BookBub. It was not something I achieved. I had hoped for, but I didn't achieve it. But yeah, if your focus is profitability, that might not be something you want to go after. That was what we talked in the coaching session. Okay, so let's move into a couple of other topics. The first one is mindset for success. And I just wanted to give you a few tips, because you see the 3rd or 4th bullet here where it says the post-launch slump is real. For some authors, there is a lot of excitement leading up to when your book comes out. And then the day after, it's kind of a letdown. It's kind of like, wait, is that it? Like, we're done? Like, it's over kind of thing? And so I just want to put that out there. Just, don't be surprised, right? Because there's so much excitement in the lead up. Don't be surprised. It's not abnormal. It's not strange. Finally the box reappeared. Go figure. It's not abnormal or strange to kind of feel a little down. I compare it in some ways to, sorry, faffing around with my slide here. I compare it in some ways to like postpartum depression. It's like you've got all this chemicals running through your body as you're getting ready to launch, whether it's adrenaline or fear or whatever else is going on for you. And then you get past it and it's over, and you're like, suddenly your chemicals just like go back to zero balance, and suddenly your body's like, oh, is that it? Oh, we're done. And so I just put that out there, not to bum you out, but just to say it's normal, and a lot of people experience that. And don't be like shocked or surprised or feel like, oh no, this is horrible, but I'm not, I should be super happy at this point. Why am I not like super duper happy at this point? Sorry, you're seeing like a gazillion things you're not supposed to on my screen. So just to put that out there, something that happens. And some of the things that I would recommend, I don't know that you can avoid that post-launch slump, But some of the reasons that people do get bummed out, the first one is comparison. So the thing I want you to do, and really this is kind of part of your homework this week, you have this survey that I'm giving you, which is your post-launch assessment. I'm going to send you back your onboarding form if you completed it. You're going to go through this survey, and one of the questions I ask you in there is, okay, now what are your goals? Think about what your goals were at the beginning of the 12 weeks. Now think about what your goals are now. Are they the same? I want you to write them down. Put them on a Post-it note. Put them somewhere. Whatever works for you, put them in a book, put them in a Post-it note, put them somewhere. And when you find yourself comparing to another author, I want you to look at your goals and compare to your own goals instead. How are you doing against your goals? Because it's very, very easy to end up bumming yourself out by comparing to someone who is not on your journey, not with your type of publisher, not with your genre of book, not with your market situation or your target reader. It's really, really easy. It happens to us all. And so I really would like for you to kind of not compare to other people. And it's hard because we do it naturally. Most of us do it naturally. And comparison truly is the thief of joy. You'll be having a great day and everything's going great. And then, you know, you see that someone else got on a list that you didn't get on. And all of a sudden it's like, gosh, I didn't get on that list. And, you know, maybe the lists weren't even part of your plan. Like it wasn't even part of your goals to be on lists, but you still bum yourself out. And so, and I find myself doing this. So I just want to bear that in mind. If you can, write your goals down and compare to your goals as you go through your launch. And then the second thing is it's really easy to lose sight of progress and how far you've come. If you remember, Lillian talked about the idea of mantras. You might want to go back and look at her workbook and ask yourself, do you need a mantra of any type? Do you need something that you tell yourself through your launch, right? Like you might not. One of the things I did for my launch that really helped me a lot is I kept a journal. It's like a really beautiful little book that I have on the shelf behind me still, of just all the good moments. Every time something good happened, I got good beta feedback. Someone in the press said something nice. Another author said something nice. Sheila agreed to write me a blurb as one of the pages in this book. Like every time something happened, I wrote it down, every single good thing that happened. And when I got into that mode of like comparison is the thief of joy, oh no, this is not working out, I would open that book and flip through it and look at all the good things that had happened so far. And it was just a way to get my own brain back into the, okay, this is really what's happening, not, you know, spiral off onto, oh no, it's out of control and it's bad and it's bad. And maybe I'm the only one that gets into death spirals in their own head, but it was a way to get me out of the death spiral in my own head. And so that's just another suggestion. It's something that worked for me, was to keep this happy or good moments journal. It's just a little booklet where I write down all the good stuff. The other thing I really want you to think about is, what are you going to do to celebrate the small moments and milestones? And that includes the day your book launches. It includes the day you get your first review. It includes the day it goes up on Amazon. It includes all the small stuff. What are you going to do to actually celebrate it? Because one of the things that we naturally do is we write this big, big plan. So you're going to have this big Word document. And then you're going to be like, oh, phew, I made it through stage 1. Okay, moving on. Stage 2, what's the next action? And especially if you're kind of an A-type personality, you may not take the time to breathe into what you just achieved. And so I find deciding up front, what are you going to do to celebrate the small stuff? It could be as simple as I'm going to stop and have a cup of tea every time something good happens and let myself absorb it before I move on. It could be something like I'm going to have a bottle of champagne in the fridge and I'm going to pop it. It could be I'm going to go for an extra walk that day. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be very big, but do something to mark the moments. Otherwise, they just slide by and you're back into the next part of the plan and you're frantic and you kind of miss those moments that are they're gonna like nourish you for the next book. It's what's going to keep you going as you write the next one and the next one and the next one. And so I just want you to really have a think about that. Yeah, Sheila.
Sorry, I was just waving goodbye to Charlotte because she said she had to leave.
Oh. Sorry, she's gone. Yep. And then the last thing I have here for you all is, again, this is like a comparison thing, and where do you compare to? I do want you to remember, at the end of the day, you are a rock star. I put this in my little class that I did for people who are like not yet at the level of the 12-week program. Like, don't forget, you wrote the damn book. You edited the damn book. You published the damn book and put your vulnerability and your work and your creativity into the world for everybody else to, pick your words, scrutinize, see, enjoy. that makes you a rock star. You are among the 0.01% of writers at this point in time. And so I think it's really easy to compare upwards and forget that like there's the 99.9% of people who wish they were you right now. And so I just want to put that out there, that it's so easy to compare up, right? To compare yourself to the New York Times bestseller because it's so obvious. But, you know, it's very easy to forget that you're in the 0.01% at this point of people who said, I will write a book and put it in the world. You did it. You're actually doing it. So I don't want you to forget that because it is so huge. And so I have this, I'll go back to the actions so so it's not so overwhelming, but I have this before and after class assessment that I put together for you. The link is here in the PDF. It'll be in the class. It'll be in the replay when I send it out. And it's really just designed to help you think forward about the next months during your launch. And are your goals still right? Do you still believe that it's the same set of goals you started out with 12 weeks ago? Where are you now versus where you were 12 weeks ago? Are you feeling more or less confident? And then I also want you to kind of do this survey, just kind of think about how far you've come and how much more you know now than you did. And like I said, for those who did the onboarding form, which was actually only 6 of 10 of you, I now realized as I went to send it back, I will send it to you so that you have the form from 12 weeks ago. So let me stop there. I only have 2 other little sections before we wrap up, but any thoughts? And I'm sure you all have your own ways of like, how do you keep sane, right? As you go through the launch, that's one of the questions in the survey. What will you do to keep your sanity and peace as you go through this? And the reason I put it in there, I just want you to think about it in advance. Do any of you have things you already know you're going to do or use? Yeah, Cheryl.
I just wanted to use an idea that I used as an academic when my students were getting through various stages of their PhD, and it's a suggestion for the group to consider. Perhaps you could share with all of us that you've achieved something in your launch plan or as part of your launch, and we can celebrate with you on the Facebook group, rather than just ending this group then. At the end of this, I would certainly love to see and read about your achievements, however big, small, or otherwise. So, and there's lots of nodding, so maybe that's a yes. That's consensus. Yeah, cool, great.
That's a great idea, Cheryl. Yes, and I didn't put that on the slide, but also this group is still a resource. I'm still a resource, and this group is a resource for you, right? Including if you're having a hard time, right? Like one of the big advantages of the debuts group that I was part of was it was a closed community where we could share when it wasn't going well and ask for advice. And the hard thing when you're coming out with a book is because you are among that 0.01% that made it, you feel like you can't really complain, right? Like publicly, and you probably shouldn't complain publicly, but this is a safe space where you can say, hey, this isn't going how I thought it would. You know, my publisher screwed me last week and I'm really mad about it. Like, feel free to share those things. Any other thoughts? That was a really good one, Cheryl.
I find it comforting that I'm not the only one that goes into a death spiral. Because I'm my own worst enemy. Like I came into this going, I don't know what I'm doing. And now I feel like I could possibly know what I'm doing.
I think it was Camille who talked about this in one of her newsletters. And, you know, evolution is designed to protect us from danger. So we focus in on the danger and the bad stuff. And then it kind of like becomes our focus.
But I'm going to steal the happy journal thing. That's a good idea.
Cool. Yeah, take which of these work for you. I just want you to be a little thoughtful about it and not kind of fall into something you didn't see coming, if that makes sense. Cool. And talking of that, I just have one page on scams and scammers. And I've mentioned some of these as we go along, but again, I feel like I'm sending you out into the world, even though we have another month of coaching, even though I'm not disappearing, I just want to make sure you don't get scammed along the way. And what happens is once you're out there and your book releases, suddenly you get all these messages on Instagram that you never got before from people who want to promote it, who want to review it, who wanted this, who wanted that. I get emails. I probably get 5 to 10 emails a day from different promo companies. And it really only started after my book was out and in the world. And I don't know if you experienced this, Sheila, with your first book. No, see, I don't know why. I get a lot of these. And so I just want to flag some of them that were the top ones that I thought of top of mind for me. So a lot of times I will get someone reaching out to me on social media who says they want to review my book. And this is interesting because it's also a kind of a mind F, because what happens is they reach out and they say, oh, I saw your book. It looks so exciting. I'd love to review it. And your little brain goes, yay, someone wants to review my book. And then they go, yeah, and I like this about it, and I like that about it. And you get into a conversation for like 3 pages of messaging, and then they say that'll be $200. And your brain goes, oh, they were just trying to make money off me. And it's a horrible brain cycle, right? It's not a nice place to be. So for what it's worth, I start every incoming review request from a Bookstagram kind of account with, great to hear from you, just so you know I don't do paid reviews. And if they are not a person who is asking for a paid review, they're not going to be insulted by that. You didn't say they are asking for a paid review. You just say, just so you know, I don't do this. And I will tell you that 9 out of 10 people go deadly silent and never say anything more to me. So that's just how I've dealt with it. That worked for me. You can find your own way, but just know that a lot of the people who reach out to you saying, oh, I'm so excited about your book, I want to review it. Some number of those are going to be paid opportunities, and they're just looking to make money off you. I don't follow any private accounts for what it's worth on Instagram, or is there even a Facebook private account? I certainly don't on TikTok either. You know, I would say more than 9 out of 10 private accounts, maybe 99 out of 100 private accounts are scams and bots. So it's not worth my time, and I don't want to have to deal with it. And for what it's worth, I actually also, in Instagram, I don't do it anymore on TikTok for a different reason, but in Instagram, you can forcibly have someone unfollow you. And when I get a bot account, basically a private account, most of those, I just forcibly have the account unfollow me. And that is because at this point, I don't want to have 8,000 people on my Instagram, of which 5,000 are bots. That's just personal choice. I don't want that. And mainly it's because at this point, I think someone may go look at my follower list, and I don't want them to look at my follower list and see mostly bots and scams and fake accounts. And so that's what I do. I forcibly have private accounts that just followed me unfollow me.
Do you hit the block button then?
Nope. I just unfollow. If they reach out to me, I block them.
Oh,
Like if they
okay.
message me, I block them. But if they're just like, this person followed me, I just click the remove. I think it says remove follower.
So I've been blocking all those people. Do you think that removes them
I think
as a
it's
follower?
same. I think it does. Yeah, I think it's a different way to do the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
I started doing it on TikTok before I was doing it on Instagram, and I don't think on TikTok it was different. Like unfollow was easier because you could do it right there with the same click. So I had to stop on TikTok because my account blew up when I was in the Philippines, and it suddenly got like 2,000 followers in 3 weeks, and I wasn't going to bother. So I just gave up. There's a lot of junk. My TikTok is a whole lot of junk on it, and it's not even an author TikTok, so I'm not too worried about it. A common scam that is going around right now, and I have seen many people post about this in the last few weeks. It shows up in your notifications, and it says Facebook or Instagram has flagged your account because you have not met their policy, blah, 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 and click here to see what you need to do about it. And it looks really legit. There's also an email version of this. It looks really legit, but it is not from Facebook or Instagram. It is from a scammer. And when you click on it, you're giving them control to some part of your computer, or putting a virus on your computer, or it depends what they're doing. But the thing they want you to do is panic and click on the link. And you're more likely to click on the link because you're panicked because you think your account just got blocked because you did something wrong. And so it's a really common one. One way you can tell this is it shows up in your notifications. But if you go into your settings and you look at notifications from Facebook or Instagram, it won't show up there. That's because it's not from Facebook or Instagram. And so I've seen several people freak out about this, and kind of like, it's all just designed to make you click the damn link, unfortunately. It's a really, really common one. Saying that, never click on links from unsolicited messages, especially on social media. You all know this, but that's an example of where people are clever. They give you a good reason to click, right? This is a video that you showed up in. Oh, look, your book finally made the press. Of course you're going to click the damn link, except you don't want to. So really, like, you have to have kind of that second guess every single time you're asked to click a link, unfortunately. And then a whole category of things that they're not scams as such, in that they will give you what they said they would give you. It's just that what they're saying they'll give you isn't worth your money. Email pitches with bullet lists of followers and impressions. This is where I get like 5 to 10 of these a day. Have your book show up on our Twitter account with 50,000 Twitter followers, and our Facebook with 25,000 Facebook followers, and our Instagram with 100,000 Instagram followers. Waste of your time and money. Blah, blah, blah. No. Promo services, where they come at you. So this is kind of the same category, but they come at you and they do sound legit. And then if you ask a question and say, so how big is this audience on this email? They won't give you any numbers. They're just like, well, we have an email that goes out to readers. Yeah, well, how many people are on that email and who are they? They won't answer the question. Just, it's rarely going to be worth your time and energy. And there's a lot of those, unfortunately. And then there are paid media opportunities. Again, these companies are all doing what they say they'll do, right? The company with 20,000 Twitter followers will put you on their Twitter. They won't do anything for your book, but they'll do what they said they would do. Paid media is someone like Mogul Press. There's a lot of people out there who are working for Mogul Press. I think they're bots. I'm not quite sure, but I get tons of these people on Instagram who reach out and say that they are working for Mogul Press and they'd like to include you in a feature in the LA Times. And then there's a charge for each of the 20 authors in this feature in the LA Times. So Mogul Press is basically making their money by charging 20 authors $500, $1,000 each to be in this article. Top 20 LA authors, for example. And the article's real and the publication's real. I mean, it'll come out, it won't do anything for you and it'll cost you money, but it's an ego boost if you want to do it, just because it gives you an ego boost. But they're not worth your time or money. They're not exactly scams. They're just things that I want you to be aware of. Any questions on those? Oh, Rita, you're on mute.
I have something going on and I can't tell if it's a scam or not, because I've been a lawyer for so long. 100,000% of everything to me is a scam. It's just a scam. That's how I look at it, just because that's how life is. I had another, she appears to be a writer, messaged me on Facebook Messenger, which I don't use. It was on because my husband uses it and I have to answer those. She keeps wanting to have a conversation. And I'm okay with having a conversation, but now it's like, just weird. It's just, here's my credentials, now show me yours. Okay, you can go look those up. You're on my author page. Why? I don't understand this. So I haven't responded. I mean, is it just, I've not seen this. What is she leading up to? What am I about to get drawn into that's going to be a scam? I can just tell. It feels like it just feels like it's gonna be
is she a
scam.
real author? Is she a real author?
She is.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense.
It could just be in the category of people are weird and some people are weird and entitled.
I don't know. She's trying to create engagement. Is that what this is about?
I would wonder if her account was spoofed, like, somebody is
Oh,
using.
no, I hadn't thought about that.
See how many
Okay.
followers and when the last post was from this particular account.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I meant by
That's a
is she
good
real? Sorry,
idea.
like not only is this real
Okay.
author in existence, but is this really their account?
Is this really okay? Now that part I didn't think about. Okay. Let me go look at it. But it just felt,
Yeah, I
don't know.
sometimes fall for accepting a friend request from someone. I think we all fall for sometimes that I'm already a friend with. It's like I just had a bad day and I forget, but like I already am friends with this person. I accept the request and they message the fake account, the fake
Yeah.
Chilla will message you within like 10 seconds of you accepting the friend request. They have it automated, I think. And
Yeah.
they'll reach out to you right away the second you accept the friend request. It's almost like a sign of a scam account. If someone messages you the minute you accept their friend request, that's probably a scam.
I've noticed also one thing, and then I'll shut up. I can't remember what her name is. Crap. She's on Instagram and TikTok. She was the author that did she supposedly has the perfect marketing plan, and she came out and got everything. She had 11,000 pre-orders last month before her book came out.
You talking about Colleen Hoover or a new one?
No, this is a new one. Russell? No. Anyway, I noticed this month now that her book is out, she is starting to do giveaways on her Instagram account. And if you click on her link, it's an automatic response. And these free giveaways are not free. It's another money-making scheme. And it's like, isn't that the fastest way to shoot herself in the foot for future readers? I mean, she's saying because her thing is, hey, I'm giving away this thing for free. If you want this, type this word in and I'll send you the link or whatever. Okay, so you type in, and yes, she does respond, and she said, yes, but it's $3.99. You have to buy it.
Ooh, that's bait
A
and switch.
checklist.
That's
A checklist. It's a bait and switch. It's a checklist of how she did this part of her marketing plan.
I don't mind upsell in that scenario. Here's the thing I promised you for free. If you'd like this other more detailed XYZ
No,
version,
this is,
here's
yeah.
an upsell.
no, it's not free. You have to pay for it.
Unethical. No, don't lie to
Okay,
people.
I just thought as a
Never lie to
writer.
people.
Are you talking
It's
about
just-
Brianne Randall?
Yes, thank you, Randall. She's just started doing this, and I'm like,
I don't like that.
who's teaching you this
At least
stuff?
the way you've described it. Like, I don't like it. Yeah, I'm a
Well, the first
Yes.
round, I thought maybe I made a mistake. And so I did it again for something else. And no, it was exactly the same. I had to pay for it. So, no,
I'll be gracious and say maybe she made a mistake when she was setting up the autoresponder.
yeah, the first time I would agree, but the second time, yeah.
So I have a few thoughts for you beyond the launch date. This is at the end of our time here. One thing I put some slides, which if you want to go through them on a future coaching call, I'm happy to. There was a presentation that the debuts did, where the debuts in 2020, I pulled together all of their thoughts on what worked best and what worked worst for marketing. So what they thought was worth their time and not worth their time. And I put that in the backup here. So you'll have it in the PDF deck. We didn't have time to talk to every slide, and it's kind of self-explanatory, so you can look at it. And I also put a survey in the backup here that was really interesting to me, that was asking, it was a survey of like a few thousand authors, and it asked them by size of author. So the author who only has a couple of books versus the author who has 5 or 10 books versus the author who has 10 or 20 books. And it's actually by revenue, what tactics they think are most interesting and effective. And it kind of shows you how it changed over time as those authors get bigger and what changes for them. So I put some of those slides in the backup that might be of interest for you. But the thing that came out of the debuts stuff the most was this idea that community and mindset matter. Like the number one thing that when I went back to all the 2020 debuts in the women's fiction space and asked them, name the things that worked and the things that didn't work, the number one thing that worked was community, collaborating with other authors, finding opportunities together. That was the number one thing that the debuts felt in that year had worked well for them. So I put that here. The second thing is, don't forget to say thank you. We talked about how do you turn those readers into raving fans? And it can be as simple as saying thank you and expressing your appreciation and excitement when someone does say something nice about you in your book. And your marketing approach will grow with your author career. I focused on the things here that make sense as you're getting your debut, your first, your second book off the ground. But as you grow, other things will start to make sense. So for example, in that survey, one of the things it said was the authors who were in book 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 said events worked for them. The authors who were much bigger with higher revenue said events were an utter waste of time for them. But it makes sense, right? Once you're selling 10,000 copies a month, you don't care about selling 10 more. But when you're selling 20, it matters, right? And so it makes perfect sense, but it will change over time, and that's okay. And so just bear that in mind also when someone tells you like, oh, this is totally something you should do, or never do such and such, right? Where are they in their career, and where are they with what they're trying to get out of their marketing? And that's why I don't like when people do these emphatic statements like, you must be on TikTok, you must do, a BookBub promo and do it now, right? Like, no, it depends on where you are and what your goal is at that point in time. And then the most obvious one that changes over time is once you've got your books out there, and preferably more than one, that's where advertising starts to make sense. It's pretty hard to make money on advertising with one book, okay? It's possible if you're indie published. It's almost impossible if someone is taking 80% of your royalties to make money with advertising on one book, just the economics of that. But once you have several books out the door, it can make sense to do advertising almost with one book if you're indie, but it's a challenge. Brian Cohen, if you take his class, actually says like, really, you shouldn't do advertising until you have more than one book. He actually says that. But if you want to start with advertising, the one place I would recommend to start is Brian Cohen's 5-day Amazon Ads Challenge. And I just think of all the options that are out there, you've got Mark Dawson's classes, you've got his, you've got several others. That's the one I would start with. It's free. It's a 5-day free challenge. It's coming up again starting in January, I believe. And so I'm aware that advertising is something we just weren't going to be able to cover in our 12 weeks here. And it's also not something I recommend to start with, right? Based on what I just said. But if you do want to get into advertising, that's the one I recommend as your best place to start. And then I did something here, which is a couple of things for you. Well, let's go back to our action items before we wrap up. Oh, actually, let me flip forward and then come backwards. So I went back and I was looking at like what we said the class would do, because I wanted to make sure we actually did all the things we said we would do. So if you remember the document I sent you way back at the beginning where it said like, what will we do in this class? And this is what we said we'd do. We said we would build a marketing plan to successfully launch your novel. We would define a manageable list of tactics and an action plan that fits with your target reader and budget. We would understand and plan the right timing for each of your activities. And that's a key part that we want to get to today with this plan. And then that you'd receive lots of resources and tip sheets and more still to come. So for what it's worth, that was what we said right back at the beginning. I thought it was nice to wrap up with what we said right back at the beginning. And you have a couple of things. I put a list of every template and workbook in one place for you. So if you're trying to find any of the templates from any of the weeks, it's all at this one link, every single workbook and template and resource that we had along the way. And then here's the link to that survey that I said on how marketing tactics evolve over time. Surely it might be interesting to you. You don't have to go study it if you're not interested right now, but if it's of interest, going backwards. So your action items before we wrap up, so let's just repeat what we want. We want to create our consolidated launch plan. And what I'm asking you to do is bring it into coaching in November. Create that consolidated plan in Word, and let's use one of our next 4 weeks to go through it together and see if it makes sense and help if it's not making sense in any way. It would be very valuable to be able to review some of these during our coaching over the next 4 weeks. So your homework is to create your consolidated launch plan using the template to put those actions and dependencies, well, the dates and dependencies in. I want you to complete your before and after assessment. You'll have the link to that in the email. It's also in the PDF deck. I want you to think about how you're going to plan for your sanity. Those things we talked about in terms of, do you want to have a book? Do you want to have your goals written down? Do you want to celebrate your successes in the group or anywhere else? And then please do take advantage of the coaching sessions in November to review that plan. Questions, thoughts?
I bow down to you. This has been unbelievable. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Well, I shared at the beginning that what drives me crazy is that thing where we just start spouting at authors all the stuff they must do. And I just think we're doing ourselves such a disservice. And, you know, even when we say it to other people, like, well, you must do this, 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 and this. And it's like, are you sure? Are you really sure?
One of the things that I really wrestle with, and I'll enter this in a coaching question, but because it's definitely a coaching question, but I'll just mention it here, maybe to give comfort to other people and maybe to get Lainey thinking about it. One of the things that I really wrestle with is, even with a launch plan that's not crazy, you know, that's kind of like, what are the 3 activities you're going to do in this category? I wrestle with how to find the time to execute that plan. And I don't have a day job. I do watch a grandchild 2 days a week, so that takes 2 days out of my week. But, you know, and Sarah Cannon preaches this in her Heart Breathings community, but you have to find the right mix between what's your available time and what are all the things you want to accomplish. Because if you have a list of 120 things you want to accomplish, but your life only allows for 40 of those things to be accomplished, then you've got to pick the 40 that make the most sense. And I have not discovered the question or the answer to that little conundrum. So, but like I said, I'll bring it up in I'll write a coaching question around that, but that's just kind of a big hairball for me that I haven't figured out how to untangle. I see Christine
let's-
nodding, so I must not be the only one.
Amen.
let's- Yeah, let's talk about it in coaching because I think it's a really good one. And like, I think marketing could extend to take up all of your time if you let it, right? Like, it's easy to find things, right? Just go to that list of 50 plus awareness tactics and you decide you're going to do 30 of them. It's a full-time job. You won't be writing, you won't be doing anything but that, right? And so I think that's the hard thing about marketing is it could easily extend to take up all of your available time, right? And that doesn't mean it's effective or it's the best use of your time or that you should, but it's easy to let it happen. So I think that's a good one to talk about in coaching. I do have some ideas on how you can approach that. It starts with working out, and you also have to cut yourself some slack that when you're right in the middle of your launch, it's possible that you won't be writing. Like, you just have to accept that might be the reality for some period of time, 3 days, 3 weeks, I don't know, but like for some number of days, it's possible that you won't be able to write. Okay. But let's step outside of those days for a second, because I really am talking about like the 4 days of your launch kind of thing. Outside of those days, I think you have to decide what you're going to protect as your writing time and what you're going to protect as your personal time, and then design the rest around that as opposed to the other way around, if that makes sense. Like, I think that's the only way to do it is to work out what is most important to protect in your life.
Yeah. I'll enter a coaching question on that one.
Yeah, it's a really good one. And people may have other ideas there. It's a really good one. It's actually one of the things that kind of freaked me out a little bit in that survey that I was just referencing, where it looked at different author stages and what people were doing. They also asked them how many hours they spent writing per week and how many hours they spent marketing. And some of the answers made me want to bash my head against the wall. So
I have a writer friend who's a well-established writer, many books out, and she recently told me that she spends 90% of her time marketing. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's insane. So
it is insane. It's not out of the realm of possibility either. I've seen people say that. Yeah.
Lainey,
Like, at some point we'll talk about it in coaching. At some point you kind of like decide to let it go as well, right? Like, I'm not doing much to market my first book at this point. I've decided that's not the most important thing in the world to me right now. Rita, I think was it Christine?
Yes, I just had something on the community side of all this. So I'll put this in the Facebook group when we get closer, but I just wanted to let you know, every year I organize a writing retreat here in Alexandria, Virginia, for women writer friends. So we have romance writers, we have women's fiction writers, and we do it every year, Martin Luther King weekend. And I'll put it in the Facebook group, but I just wanted you all to know, if any of you are anywhere in the area or wanted to travel down to DC, would love to see you all in person and get together and do some writing with you. So just watch for that. It's coming.
Ryan Gunderson.
Sorry.
I love it. Is anyone thinking they might go to any of the WFWA retreats next year? Yeah, Nancy's like, yeah.
I would like to. Maybe not get COVID the day I leave.
If you are traditionally published, which isn't that many of you, but if you are traditionally published, don't forget to join the debuts group for your year that you're coming out here. That can be incredibly valuable. I found it incredibly valuable as a traditionally published author. And for that reason of like, it was the place I could ask questions that like I wouldn't ask publicly, that were very specific to that publishing model. So like, a lot of people had agent issues of like the agent to publisher interaction when the publisher would like renege on something they promised, for example. And there was very valuable feedback where other authors were like, well, here's how my agent handled that particular thing or didn't handle that particular thing. It's very specific to publishing model. But if you're traditionally published, I definitely recommend, or hybrid, to join the debuts group for your year that's coming.
You're talking about the
Okay.
WA debut?
No, I'm actually talking about so each year it kind of gets created by the authors who are debuts that year, and it's cross genre. It's not specific to women's fiction. This year in 23, it actually was young adult and adult together in one group. And they did it all via Slack. In my year in 2020, it was a Facebook group. It was Allison Hammer who pulled it together with a couple of other people. And then I stepped in and helped them. Last 2 years, I think they've done it on Slack.
So how do you get in there?
There's a 2024 debuts up and running already. I believe they already have an Instagram presence. Maybe start there and send them a message and say, how would I join the group?
Thanks.
Yeah, it's worth being in. Just any of those communities that you can be in, people who are going through like experiences are valuable. Okay, I know we're at the end of our time for now, but we've still got coaching through this month. And the PDF of the slides and the workbook are already up and in the portal for you if you want to go use those starting now. And tomorrow I will put the replay up and I will send those of you who did your onboarding survey, your original onboarding survey as well. Thanks, everybody.